Welcome back, everybody, to Inside Texas Baseball. I'm your host, Evan Veith, in my eighth new location that keeps coming up in the last 8 shows, alongside Nash Talks Texas, as always, here. I'm in my childhood bedroom back in Washington, D.C. You can see how much I liked red in the Washington Nationals from my background. Nash, as always, is incorporated with his burnt orange. We're starting the show off with some less positive burnt orange news and some interesting things that happened just with who and what happened in the transfer portal, because before we get to the additions that Texas had earlier in the week, Easton Winfield, just today, I think midnight tonight, basically, was when he announced that he would be entering the transfer portal a day before the last day to enter the portal. July 1's the last chance that any player can enter. Teams can still pick up players after that, but that's the last entrance date. Winfield, and then shortly after, Bryce Navarre, who's a little bit less of news. He was a kind of rotational lefty. He was a freshman last year, didn't pitch a ton. Maybe not so much in the plans in the future, but Nash, what's your reaction to this? Because the timing seems a little off of what's going on with this Winfield situation.
Yeah, I mean, Easton Winfield, you would have probably expected he enters the portal sooner rather than later. I mean, this is pretty late in the portal cycle because a lot of teams are starting to already kind of get their lineups filled. So, I mean, while this is probably a mutual decision, I mean, this does feel a little bit like kind of, hey, forced a little bit. Uh, Not saying that he was pushed out, but just the timing, it does feel weird. But overall, I mean, I kind of have an issue with where college baseball is, not just college baseball, college sports, but specifically college baseball. It's a legitimate problem where I think either 25% or even up to 50% of the players in college baseball have entered the NCAA portal this year so far. So, I mean, I think that yeah,
We do have a
there is a dog
here.
on my desk, but yeah, but basically I do think that this is there's a bigger issue that might be coming into play in future years. It feels like we're turning into a sport full of mercenaries.
Yeah, and it's you got 1 year to prove it. We were talking about this pre-show, but at least in the NFL or MLB, you sign a 2 year contract and it's terrible, or like Paul George for the Sixers, he still has to play with them next year. He still has the grace that they can't just kick him off the team when it doesn't go well. And of course, with Winfield, it wasn't a great season for him. His overall season stats didn't look too bad, but didn't really get to play in the SEC. And when he did, he was striking out over half of his at bats. The K to walk ratio was pretty bad. I think he almost quadrupled that number on his overall stats, and it wasn't what you expected of someone who, as I was writing in my article today about him, the headlines when he came in was top 100 prospect in the 2026 draft, one of the best freshmen in the nation in the past year. The step up was needed. Someone needed to get this guy into the SEC, and Texas with a new coach, open spot in left field / DH. Surely he is going to be the perfect starter to come in and be an immediate impact guy. And started the first 2 games of the year, played a lot up until the start of the SEC, and he just wasn't hitting that well. But like you said, this is just such weird timing because this was the first time I felt like all June and really all off season, like, hey, maybe he has a chance to start for this team. He'd been playing really well in Cape Cod ball. There's the center field spot's a little bit up in the air of what that's going to be. Jonah Williams might be playing football in 2026, still for the Longhorns if they make a run in football. So maybe he could be the starting center fielder with an improved defensive bat, gets an extra year in the development. But if he wasn't going to enter the portal right now, why not do it June 1st, immediately enter your name? Because it felt like the graces had already kind of gone with him. He wasn't even the first guy off the bench for this team anymore. So it's just very confusing as to why it's now, why if Schlossnagle said you got to go, why he waited this long. If Winfield just now felt like this was the time to go, why was it just now? It is interesting, and it is part of the commentary of where the sport is going.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, it kind of just the timing of it is probably the weirdest part because this is probably of all the times in the transfer portal since June 1st has started. Texas baseball, this is probably the most optimal chance at starting that Easton Winfield has had. Looking at the lineup, it does kind of there's no inside information here, but it does make me feel like he was told, hey, you're not going to be like you're not going to have a chance. You will be a depth guy, and if we have an injury, you're going to get in there, but we're not planning on starting you right now. So it's a little bit unfortunate, but I mean, this is just kind of, I guess, the life that we're going to have to get used to. It sucks because I think that it exists because of connections with athletes and fans. And the more we go to 1 year rentals, the further we're going to leave this. connection.
Yeah. How are you going to make a connection with the player when you get one chance and if it's not? I mean, he had the first month of the year and then that was. I'm sure behind the scenes in practice he had his chances, but kind of had the first month of the year and that was it. But
Well, and
you'd hope that someone like him.
it
Yeah,
leads you
you
to
can take over.
pressing, like especially in a
Yeah,
sport like baseball where you fail so often, and only succeeding 3 times out of 10 at the plate is one of the like you're amazing. The
and two
difference
times
between
you're
yeah,
terrible.
yeah, 2 times you're terrible. It's literally one difference at a plate. So I mean, it's just, and Easton Winfield is a great example of this. You go and you look at his exit velos. His average exit velo was like 98. His 99th percentile was like 108 or something like that. Like this dude was hitting the crap out of the ball. He was just hitting them to the wrong places.
Yeah, that now takes as long as Max Blue does go through the draft process, 4 outfielders from the Longhorns, the starting 4 from this past year, until Jonah Williams took over, gone from this team. Pretty interesting how much shakeup that's come with. But of course, that does bring us to where Texas added in the transfer portal. It wasn't outfielders, it's already been taken care of. It was the big one, which if you were paying close attention to Nash's graphic in the last show, how we were talking in the last show, you could tell that we knew that Carson Tenney was coming to Texas. But obviously, you don't want to pre-report on anything that we aren't 100% sure on. And of course, we dropped the show on YouTube, and within an hour, he's committed to the University of Texas. The tweet is up, and we're pissed off. But what an addition he is! I mean, I would go out and say he's a top 5 player in the portal, and maybe not 5, 4, or 3. He's probably a top 2 guy in the portal here. Buster Posey Award finalists. 2 of the 3 have a connection to the Longhorns between Galvan and Tenney. And he is the big one for me, and that's what I wrote in my article talking about the transfer portal additions on offense. That this was the guy who really gives Texas that extra chance to make that College World Series run. A true star. He was hitting the crap out of the ball. I almost said something worse because of a PG-13 notice we had before the show, but his slugging was up in near the 800s this year. 753 was where he was slugging at for Notre Dame in the ACC. A true power conference in the sport. He was the best player on his team easily. Really good defensive catcher, and just a phenomenal pickup for the Longhorns to replace Rylan Galvan.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those deals where I wish I'd sent Connor this screenshot, and I'm going to send to him just in case he can go ahead and put it up somehow on here while I'm talking about this. But Carson Tenney, you mentioned his finish of the year. Absurd. Like this dude is like absolutely on another planet. Average exit velo was 98.3. 99 percentile was 111.3. Max exit velo was 113.3. And his average launch angle was 18.3. So he's hitting line drives and he's hitting the crap out of the ball.
Pure barrels.
In his last 66% of his, so this is the last 66% of games.
Jesus Christ.
He's averaging a 419 batting average. He's also you go and you look at that, the .602 weighted on base average, weighted on base, expected weighted on base average. All those numbers, these are all like, I believe those numbers are like actually like, I can speak to the furthest left one or the furthest right one, 542. That is the best in all of college baseball. So out of like thousands of baseball players, one on the data sheet. So Carson Tenney, this is a dude that you mentioned him being a like massive impact. I just like getting a bat like this on the roster. I don't know if there's a word to describe it. It's huge, but I think the one that you got to look at too that just makes me giddy is looking at the chase percentage. 19.6. This guy is a guy that he does not chase bad pitches, and that's something that this Texas team probably could have used.
Yeah, and this has been something that you've seen Swalsingle really prioritize in the cycle. Outside of maybe one of the bats that he's brought in, a lot of guys who are walking more or at the same amount of strikeouts. He had 34 walks, 40 strikeouts on the year. 30 of his hits were for extra bases, and that was in 158 at-bats. He actually didn't take as many at-bats as you might think throughout a full season, but you can just see how green this chart is. You don't need to know what X slug and swinging strike percentage, all these things are, but not only are a lot of these things green, they're solid green, meaning 95th and higher percentile. Only one that even looks really bad is missing on high spin percentage, but it's college baseball. If a pitcher's hitting really high spin percentages, he's just a good pitcher. That'll happen.
And then you go and look at the slugging on the spin percentage.
Yeah, he's still hitting it. If he hits it, it's gone.
What that's telling me is he will miss, but when he does hit it, because you can look at the fastball for like a great example of what I'm talking about right here. Yeah, he does miss, but when he does hit it, it flies out the park. Like this is amazing, and I don't know if Connor can put up the screenshot that I just sent him to, because this was before leading up to this
March 21st, that
66%
was.
mark. Like the first third of the season for Carson Tenney was far worse than you're gonna see it right here. I mean, like I've been
Jeez,
I've
yeah,
been
there you
joking
go.
with people. This was up to March 16th, and then after that it was March 21st and after. Personally, I think that Carson Tenney had his girlfriend break up with him after March 16th, and he just went on some insane slugging stretch. But to me, you also look at this right here. This tells me it was a lot of just kind of the ball finding the right spots, because you look at the chase percentage is the exact same, swing percentage is the exact same, average exit, all the EVs are the exact same. It's just a matter of the ball finding the right finding a landing zone. It's almost kind of like a feels kind of very similar to what we saw from Kimball Schuster earlier in the year. But I mean, it's just the point of me bringing up this first part of the stats is if you go to his 66%, last 66% of the year, that's how we finished on the year, and in my opinion, I'd rather have that. I'd rather have these numbers right here in the first third of the season than the last third.
Oh, 100%. And you got to remember with Tinney, he was a sophomore, true sophomore this past year. So part of it's also he was pretty young to start the year. This is just a guy who's playing catcher, set to play catcher for the second straight year, and actually just getting back to what it would be like to be the number one guy on the team. And he surely was, and he will be for Texas. That also leads to two other players that got added in between that time. Andrew Ermis, who is a JUCO catcher, I believe Temple College, just pretty much a one-for-one replacement for Cole Chamberlain. I believe Ermis is a junior. He's been catching for 2 years before has 2 years of eligibility. Texas just didn't have a backup catcher. They needed someone. They're not going to spend a ton of money to go get that. So adding from the JUCO ranks is pretty common for teams up into the SEC. So no surprises there. And then Hayden LaFew to add on. And Nash, you pretty much nailed it when we had our show talking about what Texas still needs to do in the portal. And you said not just left-handed pitchers in the bullpen, but 3 to 4 left-handed pitchers in the bullpen. And LaFew makes it number 3 for the staff. And I just saw today that he and Tinney are playing together in Cape Cod. Forgot the team exactly, but there was a strikeout where LaFew threw it to Tinney. Tinney framed it well, and they got a swinging strikeout. But LaFew is another really, really good left-handed pitcher, one that can actually face righties, which I was explaining in our boards recently today. Because he has a plus changeup, those kind of pitches tunnel really well with the fastball, and it makes it hard for both handedness to see it, but especially righties. That fastball looks like it's going straight, boom, it's a changeup and goes down inside on you. That's a really tough pitch to hit, and he has probably the number one pitch of every pitcher we brought in that changeup. But that marks the third lefty with Cal Higgins and Dotson from Mississippi State. He's from Wake Forest, so it's another high major college baseball program that Texas is adding from, and he was one of their best left-handed pitchers. What is your scouting report on him? What does he bring to this team for the next year?
Yeah, I mean, you go and you look. I'm hopefully Connor can pull up this chart again, because this is you mentioned his the pitching. This is a dude that he's forcing players to miss. Is at a 66.7% rate. Like this is you mentioned that changeup. Calling it a plus changeup is probably a little bit disrespectful. He's like that thing is elite, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say you're disrespectful, but I'm making a joke. But the cutter too, guys aren't getting on base against that. It's good velocity with really good spin, really good movement. You look at the miss percentage; he does not miss the zone. He throws the ball in the zone a lot. Yeah, guys don't chase the ball, but they probably are watching a lot of strikes go by, because this is a guy that you look at 31.9% strikeout rate. He's striking out the guys, and you're expecting a on base percentage of 297. That's pretty good. So, I mean, yeah, the lefty pitching, that was one of the most obvious needs in the portal. With just you can't have 2 year starters be lefties,
Yeah.
and then also lose Bryce Navarre. So you only have Walker and I'm blanking on
I'm Bing, but Bing was probably the
Bing, yeah,
Tuesday guy too.
Bing and Walker, but yeah, he's also a potential starter too. So I mean, when you have Bing and Walker as your only options to coming out of the bullpen, you probably need to add some guys. But as far as the guys that we did add, I mean, Dotson, Higgins, and LeFew. It's hard to find a better lefty group than that. It really
Mhm.
is.
It's really they didn't need to replace Volantis on the team. They need to replace him in the bullpen. I think LeFew is the
Well, and he
closest to
may
like
still be in the closing spot too.
that's true.
There's
Yeah.
going to be options competing for that third spot.
Yeah. And LeFew is definitely the one that's closest to his style and identity of a strikeout guy. Go get the batter. And that's why he's one of the most likely of the three to be kind of an eighth inning, not just lefty specialist, but face anyone on the team. I think that's going to take us, Nash, into Josh Holden before we talk about some potential lineups and our projections for how the team's going to look next year.
Hi, guys. Sorry to interrupt, but if you're thinking about buying or selling a home in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex area, you need to contact Josh Holden. The Metroplex is massive, and the local real estate market is full of nuances and subtleties only an experienced agent like Josh can help you navigate. From Preston Hollow to Highland Park, Uptown to Old East Dallas, Josh will be there to guide you through the process of buying or selling your home. Now, Josh is a UT grad, a lifetime Texas X. He's reliable, savvy, and from a personal perspective, he's a really great guy to chat with. So why don't you give him a call and chat with him today about your real estate needs in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area. His number is 972 917 8081. That's 972 917 8081. Or you can reach him at his website, which is joshholdenrealestate.com. All the contact details are in the description below. Thanks so much. And back to the show.
Appreciate it, Josh and LC. So with the portal, it's not closed, but I feel like Nash, we generally, at least on the batting side of things, probably have a starting 9 or 10 players that we know are probably going to be in that lineup. There's maybe something that happens with an outfield spot or a draft surprise, but I think it's probably time because a lot of our readers have been asking for it to give out what we think this team is going to look like. And I already know from seeing it a little bit that we have some things we disagree on. But Connor, if you want to bring up mine first, just my baseline lineup. What I prioritized a lot here is with this now being a real Jim Schlossnagle team. It's been a year. He's had a chance to build up with two different types of portal or new players or returning players, whatever it is. I feel like he's going to really lean into two things, which is lineup versatility and kind of the analytical approach to building a lineup these days, because that's what this team has been built around a lot. And so, first of all, Mendoza leading off. This one, I don't think is a super set in stone. A lot of it's because he did it last year and was really good at it. I do think Robbins, who's in my fourth spot, could be that because Aiden Robbins is a really, really good contact OBP hitter. But I'm going to start with Mendoza at second, Carson Tinney batting second, catching. Just you put your best hitter as high up in the lineup as you can. I think that's the identity now. You want to have your best guy at number 2. Tinney's probably the best hitter. Put him at 2. 3, have Adrian Rodriguez at DH. Get a switch hitter in there. Make sure you're splitting up those righties. He's still a really good hitter. I think he's going to take that next jump into a really elite hitter because he's not going to be as injured. Maybe has a chance to hit switch hitter again. Maybe just a lefty. We'll see. 4th, I have Robbins. This is definitely a new age mindset idea where instead of putting a pure power bat at 4, you put a contact guy so that he can be the RBI getter, the go get a base hit. We don't need you to smack the ball out of the ballpark or lead off the next inning if Rodriguez is out. 5, Caleb Freeman. I wanted to get him higher. I was slipping between him being 3 and 5 with Rodriguez. That one can go either way. I think he's going to play first for this Texas team. That seems like the spot for him, even though he hasn't played it a ton in his collegiate career. He's done catcher, second, third, left field, right field, everything for Georgia State and Auburn. 6, I have Jack Marinac. Playing right field, just a really strong hitter, followed by Casey Corbett, 7, another really, really good hitter for this Texas team. 8, I have Jonah Williams starting in center. He or Robbins could be the left fielder or center fielder. I think that's where a lot of the competition is going to go. Robbins is also a pretty good athlete, pretty fast guy, a base stealer. I think Williams starts there, but part of my reserve and why he's a little lower in the lineup is he would just have been coming off of a football season. He's not as ingrained with this current squad. I do think he's still the starter. I think with Winfield, Farmer, Gasparino all gone, that's your best option instead of having Josh Livingston in the lineup. And then 9th, Timo Becerra. He's probably going to be the worst hitter in the lineup, just a good fielding shortstop. But my goal with this is to have as little righty in this lineup as possible. The only spot you have is 9-1-2. Have some switching up with switch hitter, Adrian Rodriguez, lefty Freeman. Livingston can come in as a lefty if you need him in the lineup at times. But this is how I see them lining up as of right now. But a lot can change. I know Nash has a few different spots on his.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's pretty similar, but it's slightly different. I'll ask Homer to bring up the if he can pull up the full graphic. instead of just the batting order for me because kind of want to show the spots. I have a little bit of different positional spots. Yeah, so I mean, I think that you and I have a lot of similarities in what we want to do, but I'm kind of, in my opinion, I'm switching up Robbins and Tenney, and I know Tenney is 100% the best power on the roster, but I got Tenney as the second best hitter. I think Aiden Robbins is the best hitter. I think he was just
Okay,
overall the
yeah.
best hitter in college baseball last year. So I think he kind of slides into that number 2 spot. He's a guy that, in my opinion, I think it's going to be either Ethan Mendoza or Aiden Robbins, and it's going to be only those two dudes at 1 and 2. I got Caleb Freeman up higher. Like this is a dude that potential major, like he's still a threat to leave the roster to go to the league. So this is a deal where I know Texas has, helped themselves in that area to make sure he stays on this roster. But if we lose him, I mean, this outfield, we're going to, losing Easton. Now you guys start, hey, Easton, hey, Will, you want to come back,
Come on
maybe?
home.
Right? Come on back. Come on back now. Right. So you're in one of those situations, right? But I think that really the most interesting part about this is it does sort of feel like, hey, Jonah Williams, step on down. You are solidified as a Texas baseball player, right? Like
Yeah.
there were some doubts on whether you play Texas baseball or not in the future, but man, it does feel like those doubts are just slowly creeping back, even more as each day passes. I got him starting in center field, and I know, yeah, he did kind of. He is going to be a little bit tired, and I think early on you probably see him later in the lineup. But I've seen too much confidence in that bat, and I just think that bat is too good to have down later in the lineup. Uh,
Mhm.
Adrian Rodriguez, I mean, this is one of those deals where when you start getting to like a Adrian Rodriguez level player, and you're having to like, where does he hit in the lineup? You're having a really good lineup, offensively. Jack Marnick, that's a guy that can easily send the ball to the field. Casey Borba, I think he's honestly probably going to play more of first base this year, from what I've heard.
Mhm.
It does kind of feel like you might see an Adrian Rodriguez at third base, and that's, if you think about it too, that shouldn't be anything surprising because that's something that we saw with the staff going into Arlington. I believe Arlington game 1, Adrian Rodriguez is starting over there at third base.
Yeah,
So
he did.
this is a deal where, yeah, I mean, like Carson Tenney, that was about 100% last week. We tried to hold off as long as we could for him,
We did.
but I think he might have been in California because he was posting on that West Coast noon time. But so yeah,
Right.
Andrew Ermis, he's not a bad backup for him. Just looking at this though, it's the depth and guys like Adrian Rodriguez and Caleb Freeman, they allow this team to be able to do a lot of different things. And with the outfield going the way that it is, I think, man, you could even see like a Caleb Freeman play out there in the outfield. Personally, I have him at DH right here, but man, this is a situation where this team is really starting to take shape, and the bullpen is looking really, really good.
Yeah, that's a strong point for sure. I do see, and like in your lineup, I had the same conflict of like, is Rodriguez playing third? Because realistically, Livingston, Rodriguez, Borba, and Freeman, all four could play any of third, first, or DH for this team to start the year. I think that's just going to be an open competition. Like, hey, go win that spot for one of them. It feels like we've glossed over Livingston, who's just a solid player, and if that's your 10 bat, like man, you're happy. And you're 1 through 8 in this lineup. Not to be disrespectful to Becerra, he's just a solid good bat, but that's your nine bat. All 8 of these guys have out of the park power, or at worst, if you don't feel like that with Mendoza and Robbins, you have him as a double leadoff. For me, it's just 2 really solid contact backs to split each part of the order. That's so nice to have as a team, and it feels like they've really constructed this roster to have a full batting lineup, which didn't feel like at times it was last year, and B, so many of these guys can play so many different positions. I mean, I can count Rodriguez, Freeman, Livingston, Duplantier. You can maybe make the case for Borba as all guys who can play 2 to 3 or 4 positions on the field, and that's so important for this team going forward. And then you look at the pitching staff side of things, which is not as much what we were talking about. We're talking more of the order, but I completely agree with how you have this set up. Volantis Friday, Harrison Saturday, Riojas Sunday, Bing Tuesday, Grubbs closing, all of those guys up in there in the bullpen. And the thing is, you look at this bullpen, and after LeFew, all of those guys have the chance to be starters for this team as well. Like Bing is not solidified. Howard, Walker, Flores, Rarick, Hamilton, all are starters in their high school times. So those are dudes. There's going to be a competition at pitching too. I think the biggest ones are the corner infield spots and that last starting pitching area.
And I mean, like at the very least, all those righty guys, well, righties and then the Walker lefty, those guys, those are all dudes that can go long in relief.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like these are if they don't start, these are guys that if you have a starter struggle, you can toss them out there and you can reasonably expect them to go 3 or 4 innings. And like that is just that's a massive security blanket to have. The other thing that I want to point out too is like you mentioned with the lefty ability, like, you know, hey, we don't have to have lefty on anymore, right? We can mix up our lineup where Mendoza's a righty, Robbins, he is a righty, but you can, if you want to, you can switch that around and have Freeman bat up there, right? So that hey, now we're going righty, lefty, righty, you know. It gives this staff a lot of versatility, and I think that like it's kind of fitting that I didn't mean for this to happen, but it is fitting that both those utility guys, Caleb Freeman and Adrian Rodriguez, are both those switch hitting guys that you can really almost put them anywhere in this lineup. And because like you mentioned earlier, it's not a Jim Schlossing was very much a new school, new age way that we're gonna, you know, piece this lineup together. It's not, hey, I do have our most powerful bat at 4 right now, but it's not just, hey, let's just put the most powerful bat at 4 and then let's put the worst guy at 9. Because here's the deal about Timo. Timo gets on base a lot. No, I mean it is kind of funny. He doesn't walk a lot, right? So he's getting on base. He's getting a lot of singles, man. He's single, but that's not a bad thing. And then, like you mentioned with Josh Livingston, I mean, if that's the guy that you got coming off the bench as a hitter, that's not a bad spot to be in, because he probably, with his numbers, I know he was a 300 hitter, but a lot of Texas hitters weren't this last year. He's probably in the top half of our lineup last year for hitting. Yeah. So this is a deal where, too, another thing that I want to point out with all these guys that we're bringing in, they don't chase a lot of pitches.
Yeah.
They are very, very disciplined hitters. They are going to walk and they are going to get hits, but they're going to strike out at a lower rate than some of the guys that we've seen from this last season.
I think just one last thing, Nash, and I'm cutting you off at 3 sentences here for this answer. Because Winfield's gone and there's some things that maybe didn't go quite Texas's way in the portal, do you think they're done, given that there may be some spots, maybe backup shortstop, outfielders now, even though that might be something that the freshmen can come in with pitching? Do you think they're done with the portal, or is there maybe one more spot you'd like to see an upgrade at?
I don't think you're ever done with the portal. I would like to see more outfielders, because I mean, as of right now, just going and looking at our current roster, we got
it's 3 guys.
Unless we're bringing Max Ballou back, we got Blake Peterson and Jonah Williams returning in the outfield. And last I checked, there's 3 outfield spots. So bringing in 2 outfield transfers isn't gonna, you know. I know Caleb Freeman also can play in the outfield, but even then, if you count him, right, bringing in 3 outfield transfers, that's not gonna do it. And I know Adrian Rodriguez is probably wanting to go play more of the infield where his natural position is. I know he has the ability to play in the outfield, but he's probably tired of that crap. So, to go over the 3 sentences, yes, I believe that we do.
to go over. Well, that was a perfect 3, the most Nash Talk Texas 3 sentences possible.
There's a lot of commas. There's a lot of commas in there, man. Run-on sentences.
A lot of commas, semicolons, all that. That's going to do it for us over here at Inside Texas Baseball. I've been Evan P. Nash Talk Texas, as always. You can find us over on InsideTexas.com, the best place for Texas Longhorns coverage. Every single update about baseball you're getting from us, too, or Joe Cook. Football recruiting is at its highest point of the season at this moment in time. So make sure you're going over there, checking out all that we got from ITYT and on the boards. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good one.
Welcome.